Expanding Canada's oil and gas infrastructure has long been a contentious topic, but tough tariffs have forced the country to take a closer look at its sovereignty and self-reliance on its own resources. So, what could that look like? Richard Masson joins us now to discuss this. He is an executive fellow with the University of Calgary School of Public Policy and former chair of the World Petroleum Congress. Richard, great to have you on the show today. So let's start with the impact these broad Trump tariffs are having on the oil and gas sector. What are producers and the market seeing right now, and what could be some of the short and long-term effects from all of this uncertainty?
Well, of course, uncertainty is the biggest thing driving what's happening right now. Global oil prices have been super volatile in the last few days. Yesterday, they moved up and down $6+, and today they're down again. So it's so volatile. It's super difficult for companies to determine what they should be doing next. All of that, of course, driven by the idea that there could be a global recession coming from this. And of course, oil is one of the most liquidly traded assets in the world. And so when there could be a recession, it's one of the things people use to bet against growth. So oil prices are down. We have, lots of oil resource. We're good at producing it. And the question becomes, will there be the investment climate that allows us to tackle that challenge?
Well, Richard, now that Trump is in power, Canadians' priorities have obviously shifted. That includes the importance of energy policy. And we know that creating more pipelines and infrastructure in this country, as I mentioned off the top, has been a very polarizing issue for years now. So let's talk about relying on domestic energy and less on non-renewable international sources. What are the major advantages and disadvantages of producing our own energy?
Well, Canada is an energy superpower already in a lot of ways. We sit on the oil sands, which are the third largest oil reserve in the world. We have the Duvernay and Montney, which are some of the best quality natural gas assets in the world. They're only at the early stages of development. And so we have lots and lots of resource that we can develop. We've been doing it for many, many years. Part of the question that's arisen over the last few months as the US has become a less reliable customer and partner is, do we have energy security across the country? Right now, we ship 4 million plus barrels a day of oil into the US on the Enbridge system primarily, but on others as well. And some of that ends up at the four refineries that are in southern Ontario in the Sarnia region. Part of it goes through Line 5, which goes under the Strait of Mackinac north of Lake Michigan. Part of it goes through Line 78, it's called, which goes around the south end of Lake Michigan. It all ends up in those four Sarnia refineries. As we started to talk about what happens if we put export taxes on or reduce supply to the US, it clearly highlighted the vulnerability of those refineries because they get all of their feedstock from Western Canada through Michigan. And if we ever did something that looked like a fight with the US around oil security, those refineries are vulnerable. That's one of the key challenges that needs to be faced if we want to make sure we have more independence around our own energy supply.
Well, Richard, the federal election campaign, as we know, is well underway, and the debate over pipelines is back in the spotlight. But the Liberals and Conservatives both agree that Canada's pipeline network does need to be expanded. So Pierre Poilievre is suggesting a national energy corridor. Mark Carney says he'll support an east-west corridor. But how realistic would a cross-country pipeline actually be?
I see it as quite unrealistic. I was involved through the Alberta government in the Energy East project. That could have gone forward. It was a time when we had growing oil production, lots of it coming in the near term. It was a million barrel a day pipeline that used a existing natural gas pipeline we were going to repurpose. That set of circumstances is gone now. So if we wanted to build a new pipeline across the country, it would probably cost 30, $40 billion based on what Trans Mountain expansion cost. And we wouldn't need it unless the US started to fight with us. It's only kind of an insurance policy. In my view, I see using rail as an opportunity to be the insurance policy for those Sarnia refineries. If the US ever put tariffs on us or tried to cut off supply, we could ship by rail if we had unloading facilities at those refineries. I think instead what we need to focus on is pipelines to the West Coast. As you know, we have lots of opportunity to ship to Asia. It's the growing market, and Alberta already is a big producer. We can ship through tankers in Burnaby out to the Asia markets, but we need more. And we need to probably get to Kitimat as another port to allow us to really expand that market. Thankfully, LNG Canada is going to start up this year in Kitimat, and it'll be the first LNG project on the West Coast.
And so, Richard, do you think that is the best way to strengthen our oil and gas sector and to target any vulnerabilities that we have? Because if we do take the U.S., a major player, out of the equation here, is there enough money within Canada and enough demand within Canada for us to be able to be self-reliant, or you do have to look elsewhere, say, like you mentioned, China?
Yeah, I don't think self-reliance for its own purpose is a good idea because we already have the ability to ship oil to Sarnia and then from Sarnia through Line 9 up to Montreal. So we can get oil to as far as Montreal, and the rest of the country gets oil by tanker, which is much less vulnerable to the US. But what we need is to make sure that if the US ever cut us off, we have a backup plan. We don't want to replace what we have. We want to make sure we have an insurance policy so that there's no point in them trying to cut us off. But more importantly, what we want to do is grow our production in the most profitable way to serve the world. And I think what the parties are talking about is try to speed up approvals, try to make sure that it's environmentally responsible using greenhouse gas reduction like carbon capture, and make sure that Indigenous organizations and nations are involved so that we can develop this in a responsible way and get it to global markets.
All right, that is Richard Masson with the University of Calgary School of Public Policy. Thank you for your time today, Richard.
Great to be here, Miranda. Thank you.